Hello. Julie Bindel posted an article in The Post. I don't know what that is, but anyway. She posted an article on Thursday, January 21st, titled, "Don't Dismiss Joe Biden on a Single Issue." So let's read it and talk about it. She writes, "When Joe Biden signed the executive order preventing and combating discrimination on the basis of gender identity or sexual orientation yesterday, his first day as President of the United States, there were sighs of despair from the U.S. gender-critical movement. It seems the new administration cannot see that ending the abuse and oppression faced by trans people is wholly different from capitulating to extreme transgender ideology." I'm confused about that last sentence there. It seems the new administration, to me that says she's referring to Biden, cannot see that ending the abuse and oppression faced by trans people is wholly different from capitulating to extreme trans ideology. Okay. For the vast majority of UK-based feminists, it is recognized and accepted that preventing discrimination should not mean male-bodied trans women having the right to access rape crisis and domestic violence services that exist to enable women to escape male violence. Obviously, I also take issue with her saying male-bodied trans women. What other kind of trans women can there be? There can only be male-bodied trans women. So why are you, Julie Bindel, why are you qualifying or clarifying what you mean by trans women by saying male-bodied? I suppose it's perhaps for people reading this who don't know what that means, but I can't imagine really in this day and age that someone doesn't know what trans woman means. So I do find it weird to say male-bodied trans women because that's the only kind there can be. She also uses the words, plural, 2 words, trans woman, space. And I don't. I use it all in one word because to space it out implies that that's a kind of woman, and they're not. They're not a kind of woman, so that's interesting. Anyway, yes, I also agree with the majority of UK-based feminists, as she claims, that male-bodied trans women should not have a right to access rape crisis and domestic violence services that are for women. Anyway, let's continue. But U.S. politics around this issue are very different to those of the U.K. For example, in the U.K., trans people have legal protection against abuse, discrimination, and unjust treatment. The U.S. is not exactly a country in which oppressed and marginalized people can feel safe and secure. For example, women have no right to maternity leave, and there is an ongoing threat to the constitutional right to abortion will be lost. When Trump banned transgender people from serving the military, it was part of a mindset that promotes discrimination against LGBT people in general. Okay. I would agree, yes, that the U.S. is not exactly a country in which oppressed and marginalized people can feel safe and secure. Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm not an American, by the way, so I'm not super 100% fluent in American law, right? Anyway, but when she says that when Trump banned trans people from serving the military, it was a part of a mindset that promotes discrimination. I don't agree with that because the American military will discriminate on all kinds of mental health conditions or physical health conditions. And I feel like the military really has the right to do that. I'm against militaries. I'm against imperialism. But regardless of my beliefs, militaries and imperialism are going to exist, right? So I think it's okay, quote unquote, okay, to quote unquote discriminate based on mental and physical health conditions, considering you need to be at your mental and physical best to be in the military. And further, the military pays for people's health care, and why should they pay for like cosmetic surgeries that, like, yes, the military should pay for somebody to have their appendix removed, but not their dick. Like, so no, I think banning trans people from the military on Trump's part probably was a discrimination thing. Probably. I don't know what he thinks about trans people, but though it may have been banned or rooted in discrimination, I do think it's fairly practical. So, hard to stomach agreeing with something Trump said. Ooh. Okay, let's continue. On this side of the Atlantic, she means the UK, women's rights, women's groups fighting to maintain women's hard-won sex-based rights, like Women's Place UK, tend to be socialist and progressives that adopt a truly intersectional approach in that they recognize how class oppression, poverty, and racism affects women. They abhor everything that Trump stands for. They would never make common cause with anyone like him. I don't know the ins and outs of a Women's Place UK. I watch a lot of their YouTube content, so that's about all I really know about them. So I can't really comment on that. I don't know what they believe on Trump. Anyway, she says, for the same reason, adopting an entrenched position against Biden and Harris because of the executive order would be short-sighted. It's not that there isn't cause for concern. Backing gender identity based on an inner feeling over sex in law is a massive error which is bound to cause significant problems for women and girls. Yes. Another serious concern is that the Biden administration is considering the decriminalization of the entire sex trade, including sex buying, pimping, and brothel owning. For feminists fighting to end the demand for commercial sex exploitation, this would be a huge mistake. Yes, agreed. And yet we mustn't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Biden is trying to repeal some of the extremely harmful legislation brought in by the Trump administration, and that shouldn't be forgotten. The problem is that socialist, liberal, or democratic men in politics rarely prioritize or even have an understanding of the effects of their policies on the rights of natal women. Therefore, U.S. feminists, supported by those of us over the pond, must fight to rescue the progressive agenda from these wrong turns. And that, of course, is a very different thing from supporting the monstrous politics of a man like Donald Trump. Okay, you know what? I thought this was going to be worse. I did raise some eyebrows when she started talking about Biden signing the executive order. I do think that executive order is going to be damaging for women, obviously. I think we can all agree on that. However, I also do agree with Julie Bindel here, where she says that socialist, liberal, and democratic men in politics rarely prioritize or even have an understanding of the effects of their policies on the rights of natal women. I think that's true. Men don't consider women. Like, they don't. Men are the default. They're not women, right? So why would they think like women or have any understanding of what these things mean for women? I don't think Biden signed this executive order, rubbing his hands together like, I'm gonna take down those women. Like, I really don't think that was at all his intention, right? I think he signed that executive order because he is a progressive Democrat who wanted to extend these protections to marginalized trans people. And like Julie said, didn't even have an understanding of the effects that it would take on women, right? I don't think it was sinister at all. I think it was misguided, but not sinister. So, yeah. I thought this article was going to be worse. I kind of was like, oh no, Julie Bindel, what's happening? Like, I thought maybe she was going down the rabbit hole, but I think it's pretty well reasoned. And though I'm, what am I trying to say? Yes, the executive order is bad news for women. And like she said, U.S. feminists must fight to rescue the progressive agenda from these wrong turns. Yeah, I agree. Like, obviously, women have to fight back for this. I'm not an American, so there's not really much I can do. But I certainly support my American sisters in fighting back against that, and I hope many do. I saw when he signed that order, TERFs trended on Twitter for like 36 hours. It was crazy because it was talking about how mad the TERFs are now. And that that really bothered me because it was just like gleeful celebration at how angry TERFs were. You know, no consideration for what it meant for women and girls. It was just like joy at upsetting the TERFs. Very bizarre. Anyway, as per usual, this video is kind of a mess. I don't have a nice way to wrap it up, but this article I will obviously link in the description box below. It is not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I somewhat agree with her, somewhat don't. I do just want to quickly retouch again on that thing where she said male-bodied trans women and quickly talk about language, because language is important and things like that make it confusing or misleading to the average person who is kind of new to all of this stuff. Trans women can only be male-bodied. Trans women are males, trans women are men. So language really is important. I know in polite society or at work or whatever, most of us probably couldn't get away with saying something explicitly like trans women are men. But it's delicate, I get that. As I'm talking it out, I kind of understand why Julie said male-bodied trans women now, because it is delicate, and in a way, I guess, I'm almost changing my mind now that I'm talking it out. Because at first I was thinking, like, when you say male-bodied trans women, you're like softening the blow or quantifying that there are male-bodied trans women and then there are just trans women who aren't male-bodied, and that's obviously not the case. They're all males. However, perhaps using the phrase male-bodied trans women is a subtle way to reinforce the maleness. Maybe I'm changing my mind in live time here. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys and gals think? I say guys as a totally gender neutral term, but I've recently encountered some women who really fucking hate that. And I find it a little annoying, but I'm trying to be inclusive. So what do you guys and gals think about saying male-bodied trans women, or the language we use to talk about trans-identified males? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments about how we can be clear in our language, but also not like piss off HR at work. Okay, bye.